Hey, I should be putting more of these posts out. I know that. And there are things that pop up in my mind to do, and then I don't have the motivation or energy to do it. And I know it's simple, it's just talking to you, talking to this thing, and hopefully people listen. The motivation right now is that there have been several people who I'm talking to in therapy, in addition to in my personal life, where the following topic has come up that I know is monumentally valuable. So stay with me if you would. Um, and One of the things that is a great preface to this talk is the idea that, well, if anybody's looked at any previous posts that have to do with anger, I talk about how each one of us have just so much frustration and anger that we can tolerate. I use the analogy of a bottle or a container of some sort. This is our disposition that we're born with, and some are born with a shot glass, and some are born with 5-gallon container, metaphorically speaking. And that what we are not taught in our culture, and most cultures I don't think are taught the following, is how to immediately or as quickly as possible process our anger, our upset, our frustration, our disappointments, get these things up out of us. What most of us are taught, especially in this culture, and especially males in this culture, and the distinction being that women in our culture are typically taught much more readily how to express their emotions, how they're feeling, and this kind of a thing, whereas little boys or males from the time we're little boys are more apt to shove those emotions into this container, and if you shove, eventually the container gets full. And so for me, as an example, I realized through many years of therapy that my container was essentially full by the time I was 10 years old. And if you come along with just an eyedropper of piss me off into that container, then what's going to happen? Well, the answer is obvious. It's going to overflow. And so anger management is managing the overflow. What I tell people or guide people, teach people is much more valuable, is identifying those things that we've shoved into that container so that it can get lower and lower and lower, and an eyedropper of piss me off doesn't register. Now, a shot glass of piss me off, like somebody, I don't know, verbally attacks me, or something happens that is bothersome to me, I might register that upset, but it's not overflowing. And I used to overflow on a regular basis, and a lot of people do. And this is what anger issues are, right? Is people who have endured all kinds of abuses and traumas and all sorts of negativity in their life that is in there, and they're just, waiting for the next drop, or certainly shot before they overflow. So here's where I'm going, though. That's like the anger management information and stress reduction information. But what I haven't elaborated on is what to do in order to get that container lowered. And so I would ask you to ponder, maybe even stop the video for a second, to think about the following question: what is it that goes into that container? Yeah, it's those things that have happened to us in the past that we are unresolved, many of which, by the way, we aren't sure what they are until we start really digging down into the container, because most people don't remember that, perhaps their third grade teacher scolded them in front of the classroom because it's so buried, or the first girl that they liked laughed at them, or whatever it happens to be. We're more concerned with immediate issues, thinking that that's really what's upsetting me, which, it's all a combination platter, right? Because it's all stuff in the container. But in any case, the question that I want you to ponder is, what do we call those things that are unresolved? And this is really, really an important question. In other words, all right, so let's imagine that you've paused and you've thought about it, and if not, do. Or you might be going, what the hell is Dakota talking about? Which is always a legitimate question as far as I'm concerned. But what I'm talking about here is resentment. Okay, so anything that is in our bottle that is not resolved is a resentment. Think about this. If I'm wrong, let's talk. But as I see it, that's what it is. And there is a wonderful statement about resentment that applies very well, I think. And it goes like this: resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Right? Because resentment doesn't do us any good. It just goes into our container of this person did me wrong, that person, this world, that president, or the guy that is on the opposing side, or however we see it. It's all just point of view, right? Anyway. So if resentment is the poison, and you can acknowledge what I'm saying as legitimate, and it's huge. I mean, if you think about this as, probable, likely, okay, fact, in my opinion, then it's monumentally important for us each, for us all. Then, since resentment is the poison, what's the cure? And you might do a thought experiment about that by pausing and then now coming back. And the cure, as I best understand it, again, let's have a discussion if you think I'm wrong, is forgiveness. Okay? There is one way and one way only to resolve resentment. And there it is. It's resentment. I mean, it's forgiveness. I forgive myself for that faux pas. Anyway, the point being now, well, okay, since every major spiritual tradition that you can think of, if you dig far enough into that spiritual tradition, says some version of, forgiveness is a cornerstone of what is needed for a person to live a more happy, effective life. Then, how do you do forgiveness? There's a big question, especially since so many of us give these verbal platitudes to those who we need to forgive, and it comes like some version of, I forgive you, but if I catch you doing it again, or whatever it happens to be, then that's a whole nother story. But that's not forgiveness. That's not what it looks like. So I think that since this has been enough of a ramble, I'll just put this under resentment and do another video later today. Please, please, please follow through. No, I'll follow through because I said I'll do it. So I will do a more elaborate talk in a while about what a person can do to really, really work on the very hard work of forgiveness. So, don't resent me for cutting it off at this point. I'll be back later.